Hi, welcome to Young at Art. I'm your moderator and today's host, Michelle Stepney. On the last day of Black History Month, I had the honor to interview fine artist Gilbert Young. This kicked off his first video cast of Young at Art, which will air each Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. He will be hosting various artists to introduce their artwork to you. He will discuss the art community as a whole. And in this first historic interview, learn how Mr. Young stays relevant during the changing times, politics through his art, how to invest in art, and the state of young artists today and how they can shape their future in the art world. So, Mr. Young, as we're doing Young at Art and having these podcasts and series of videos with your artistic friends, let us know what is the inspiration behind wanting to speak with different artists in the art community.
Well, first of all, the visual artist never gets enough exposure to the media. We need more exposure, and I have some wonderful friends and also some very creative young artists out here that I would love for the whole world to see. And especially in Atlanta right now, where we're having this renaissance of Black artists that are coming here and trying out their artistic endeavors. They're anywhere from young 20s always up to 50s and 60 years old. But we need more spotlight on them and introduce them to the community that we serve here and elsewhere.
Okay, so now we just came off of a show called the Young Black Boy Art Showcase here in Atlanta.
Right.
And you got to see varying degrees of artistic skills.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you, since you have evolved over the years with different styles of art, what did you see that piqued your interest or was interesting about the artistic style of today?
Well, one of the things that I was concerned more than piqued my interest, I was concerned that I didn't see the discipline that they needed to transfer from a hobbyist to a professional. And some of the things that they learned as children, they still were emulating, like the cartoon figures that they were brought up on, and they put it into the artwork. Even though, even though it spoke to their generation, but then you gotta understand another skill level, and also you have to understand where you may get that influence and what has influenced that art, even the cartoonish looking art, what influenced that, how that came about. So my thing, it was mostly, I went into the show with the expectation of meeting the young artists that I would love to meet and be a part of them, and also be able to give them some guidance if they wish, and hopefully be an influence to where they might go and hopefully hone some of the skills that they have.
Okay, so I know that your background is very educational and not just informative, but you have done lectures at Harvard and other different universities around the country, and you also have been an artist in residence at the, I believe it's the Cincinnati University of Cincinnati. So from a professor or a professional point of view, what is the one thing or two things that you would say to that young artist? I know that you mentioned discipline, but specifically, what would you mention to them that you think would change their direction to want to become more of a professional artist, to bring their skill level to a higher level?
Number one is study, to go back and do their own personal research on artists that they like or artists that came before them. And right now with the internet, you have the ability to get anything that you want off the internet. You have to be disciplined enough. I would say, hey guys, stop using the phone just to post your picture. Start using that phone to find out who came before you, why they made an impact, and then start looking at the economics of this business, because it is a business. And even though people say, well, I just love to do it, well, guess what? Henry Ford just loved to make cars, but he made a fortune and he had understood business. And so what we have to do, and what I would encourage them to do, is go back, search out the artists that they was in front of them, look around them, and find a mentor or a coach to help them develop that. It's easier when you working with someone that has more knowledge than you, or working with a group that have a group knowledge, because that pack also becomes a very intricate part of your career, and it helps you move off of being a novice to becoming a professional.
Okay, so since you're a professional, you have spanned basically all of the United States just about. You've met with President Barack Obama, First Lady Michelle Obama, Spike Lee, and just to name, I'm just name dropping. There's so many other celebrities and other people that you have met, and they have appreciated your artwork. But even in that, as you have traveled and how you have painted for a number of years, what is the one thing out of all of those meetings that you took away from that helped you want to go back into your studio and to set another level of expectation for yourself as an artist?
Well, you mentioned a bunch of celebrities and people of great stature. One of the things that inspired me, if my art had gotten me this far, remember, I don't see myself as some great artist. I see myself like most people see themselves through their own childhood and the race. I see this little boy, although, who wanted to be an artist and grew up, and some dreams have come true for him. And just to think, because of the art, I was able to meet these people, and that inspired me to keep going on further and further. All right? So inspiration, and for people in your community, also people like yourself who encourage me to keep doing what I do. And I think, and the other thing is support. If the artist can get support, financial support, not just emotional, but political, but financial support to say, okay, I can sell this, I can use this for the next day to pay off a small bill, to do something else, because most of these artists out here are worrying about how they're going to make a living, how they're going to eat while they create this artwork. And I think one of the things that I want to do with this podcast is to tell people to go out and support your local artists. Invest in them. You cannot go wrong. You can't lose. Just think what people used to buy my artwork for, and the prices that I sold it for, and now what's going to happen. Now, listen, the collector won't get rich off of collecting our artwork because they don't know how. But I can tell them how to secure some economic value in that. Number one, if you bought a piece of artwork from an artist years ago or just months ago, find out what his artwork is currently selling for. Double that price and insure it. Okay, on your insurance policy. Okay. That gives you a line of credit, or for credit, because they're going to ask you, what do you have?
Right.
Right? They what do you have? You own a home? Do you have diamonds? Do you have stock? Guess what's on those lists? Art.
Right.
Okay, so I guess that's a long way to get around to that question, but I think that's one of the things that we should be aware of.
So you're speaking in regards to, and it sounds like you're encouraging artists to become better skilled so they too can have a career at selling art.
Yes, and listen, they should also not only be an expert about who they are, right? They should be an expert in the area of art. They should know who came before them. They should know who's in their town. They should be supportive of each other. They should know if I give you a perfect example I use. I say, okay, there's a Charles White, okay, and there's let's say a colleague, Charles Bibbs, and then there is a Picasso. Now, for investment's sake, which one would I choose? Even though I admire both of these artists, but for investment's sake, which one would I go and invest in first? If I just was interested in money,
Right.
it would be Picasso.
Correct.
But if I was investing in my community, okay,
Yes.
it would be the first on the list because Charles White has deceased and his market value has gone up. I would invest in Charles White because I understand that the shop is closed. Charles Bill is still rising,
Right.
but Charles White shop is closed. So that means that there's a limited resources to Charles White's work, and there's more resources that's going to develop in Charles Bibbs's work.
And so the supply and demand works in the art
Right.
industry as well.
It every day of your life. It's no different from any other business, and that's one of the things that we over romanticize about what is an artist.
Okay.
Okay.
So over the years, you have evolved from different styles. I've been exposed to He Ain't Heavy from when I was much younger, and I see you have First Sunday here, and then I did notice at the Black Boy Art Show your charcoals, which are beautiful, and then you also have done murals. How do you stay relevant with the changing times? What makes you continue to move from one medium to the next?
Well, one of the things that I want to be relevant, so I hang out with a lot of young artists. Okay, I'm the oldest guy a lot of times in certain kinds of activity because I want to see what they're doing, and then I want to show them what I can do. I'll give you an example. There's a show that draws about 4,000 or 5,000 people at one time. It's called Art Beats and Lyrics, and it's put on by one of my young proteges that curates that show and put that together. And so I'm always being a part of that, just to show them a part of the past and how contemporary I can be and how contemporary they are. And you get this mutual admiration and say, well, damn, I didn't know old men could still think that way. And I'm looking at them saying, wow, I'm looking at some of the new techniques that they're coming up with and things that they're saying. It's just as important as what I said when I was a young man, and as it is today. When they say it's important to their community, it's important, but we have to be the ones to say, wait a minute, let me take time and listen. And one of the things that we have not gotten is the opportunity to speak more publicly and be a part of the social structure in the community as well as just the artistic.
Wow, I'm learning so much so far. But this concludes part 1 of this interview. Please join me with part 2 of our interview with Gilbert Young, located in our playlist.